Iran was a week away from a nuclear weapon. Tulsi Gabbard, the NSC director, says it was 3 years away. What is going on? What's this all about? Give us a sense to our viewers in terms of what to make of this. Is this Iraq being revisited?
Well, yeah. Look, I mean, first of all, somebody pointed out recently, I think, for 40 years, Benjamin Netanyahu has been saying that Iran is a week away from developing nuclear weapons. Look, we have warned for many, many months that if Israel continues to be granted impunity, then it would act in a way that sought to provoke a wider war. And the most obvious way of doing that, and it's announced for years, its desire and its intention to attack Iran. Why is it chosen this moment? I think it's chosen a moment where it thinks Iran is weak, chosen this moment to extend its power and the power of its Western allies across the Middle East, but it's chosen this moment to distract attention from its ongoing genocide in Gaza, because go back what seems a lifetime ago, just 2 weeks ago, and Israel was increasingly isolated under increasing pressure globally. Here in the UK, voices across the political establishment beginning to join our chorus and our demands for a full arms embargo, sanctions. We even had a Tory MP standing up in the Commons during the debate saying if this were any other state, we wouldn't be talking about sanctions, we'd be discussing what form of military intervention we should try. So this is what Israel is trying to do, distract from all of that. And meanwhile, of course, in Gaza, it carries on slaughtering Palestinians using a process that the same Tory MP described as a shooting gallery, an abattoir where people are lured through combat zones to seek aid and food delivered by a sham humanitarian agency and gunned down whilst they're seeking that food. 400 killed in that way.
Just 16% support for the war in the US, probably even less in the UK.
Yeah, I think this is a very dangerous moment for us, but I think it's also a very difficult moment for both the British government and the American administration. Trump, after all, came to power as the peace president, the president that wasn't going to be involved in foreign wars, the president that wasn't going to be involved in any more forever wars in the Middle East. This is looking exactly like one of those if Trump decides to join in. The British government is caught between a rock and a hard place. It's got a special relationship where it always follows US foreign policy, but at the same time, Starmer looks distinctly uncomfortable about being dragged into this, especially when his own ratings are already at rock bottom. So I think there's a very big moment here for the anti-war movement. Keep on pressurizing them, keep on demonstrating, keep on protesting, keep on boycotting, because we can push the British government and the American government away from an attack on Iran.
What do you think the position of the Labour Party is going to be?
Well, I think it's the position of Keir Starmer. They would like not to do it, but at the same time they can't think of a way of maintaining the relationship with the Americans.
They suffered enormous political losses at the last general election. I know they won, but with a very small majority share of the vote. They lost many seats in areas with high concentrations of Muslim communities and those that are non-Muslims but are completely against this. They've got reform on their backs as well. Do you think in next year's local elections, if this carries on, there's a threat that they could lose a lot of seats in the London locals and others happening if they join the attack against Iran or even provide material support?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it could have been that after the last general election, the whole kind of movement of independence kind of faded away, and that the most we ever got was the 4 that were elected last time. It doesn't look like that to me. It looks like there's still people very active on the ground, actually beginning to link up together. Jeremy Corbyn talking about some kind of loose alliance of campaigners for the next set of elections. So I think that the Labour Party can look forward to much more losses, both to reform, sadly, but also to the radical left.
And tell us what brings you here today. You know, quite a hot day, but you're here in central London demonstrating.
Well, because I feel so helpless looking at what's going on and what the state of Israel is doing in the Middle East and to Palestine with the blockade, all the bombing. I just feel so helpless. This seems like the only thing I can do, as well as apart from writing to politicians.
Do they listen? Do you feel they listen, politicians?
I don't feel they listen. No, I don't. Perhaps if there's a mass demonstration and they can see that so many people have not forgotten, perhaps then.
The genocide that's going on in Palestine, it's been happening all my life. It's been ongoing since before I was born.
You feel a bit fed up now?
Yeah, I am. I'm really fed up, and it's part of a big wider thing that's going on, obviously. But what's happened in the last, since 23, is just, it's obscene. And it's being allowed, the impunity that Israel's been allowed to act by the US and the UK government and other Western governments, it's an outrage. It's an absolute outrage.
Jeremy, we've seen how the world powers are gearing up for an assault on Iran. How dangerous a moment for the world is this?
This is a phenomenally dangerous moment for the world. We have the hot war in Ukraine, which could be sorted by a ceasefire and negotiations between Ukraine and Russia, and must be. If they can talk about grain, they can talk about peace. The occupation of the West Bank and of Gaza, and the killing of so many people and the genocide against the Palestinian people continues. And now we have the Israeli bombardment of Iran and the reply by Iran. This is incredibly dangerous. If President Trump wanted to, he could intervene very quickly and bring about at least a cessation of the hostilities between Israel and Iran, and then a return to something like the earlier nuclear agreement. It's quite clear Iran does not have nuclear weapons, and the bombing of nuclear facilities by Israel is incredibly dangerous because of the possibility of contamination.
You've got a bill in Parliament to force the government into an inquiry. How likely is it for Keir Starmer and this government to actually join or provide support to the American effort? People are very worried at that.
I've started the process of getting an independent inquiry into British policy and arms supply to Israel, and I got that past its first hurdle in Parliament. I don't doubt the government will try to block it. It's on their heads. It's their responsibility. If the will of Parliament is there should be an independent inquiry, there should be an independent inquiry. We eventually got one led by Sir John Chilcot into Iraq. But the inquiry call has already had effects. I'm getting lots of information about weapons that are being supplied, about manoeuvres that are being undertaken, about private flights that are taking place, about the use of British bases. All that is building up. And don't worry, we will push everything.
Why are they trying to hide this?
Because they don't want the true nature of the security cooperation with Israel to be revealed. And the question I have is, all these surveillance flights over Gaza, what has happened to the information collected? What is it for? Is it to aid Israel's war machine? Is it to locate the hostages? Is it to find out where the greatest need of aid is? I want the answers.
Let's say they don't intervene directly and the Americans go in with aeroplanes and they with fighter jets and start bombing Iranian cities, sites, etc. Will they be successful in enacting regime change by bombing, or will they have to send troops in, which will spell a catastrophe for the entire world?
Regime change is illegal within international law. Whatever you think of the regime, it is illegal to try to change the regime. My feeling is that with most countries under bombardment, the opposite is the effect. The opposite is the population as a whole rally around the leadership they've got. They don't necessarily turn against their leadership because there's a conflict. It's often psychologically the opposite effect. My wish is that the Iranian people are able to live in peace, that the bombardment stops, and that the people of Iran are able to return to normality in lives and hopefully a peaceful democratic future.
My final question, in terms of the British government, what are your key asks, you know, as a group of independent MPs? Obviously, you're campaigning very hard against the genocide in Palestine, in Gaza, but in terms of the wider Middle East, what are you asking the British government to do?
Cease the arms supplies to Israel, stop the use of RAF Akrotiri and Dekalia, stop the use of RAF Bryce Norton for flying equipment into Israel. Secondly, end the security deal with Israel, which backs up Israel's whole strategic endeavor across the region. Think of this: Israel is bombing Gaza, Israel is bombing the West Bank, Israel is bombing Yemen, Israel is bombing Iran. Well, where's it going to stop?
620 days ago, my cousin was born in Gaza, a baby girl full of hope and potential, yet born into a world where bombs are the first sounds she hears, and her future is defined by the destruction around her. She has now nothing but the roar of airstrikes, the chaos of fleeing, the pain of loss. For her, these 622 days are the only life she knows. In her eyes, a world of innocence, but in her reality, a world of suffering and survival. And this, in many ways, is the story of Gaza, a place where children grow up not knowing what it means to live without fear, where families are torn apart, and where every day is a fight to stay alive. For my cousin, those 622 days represent the cost of a life spent in the shadow of war. 622 days of bombs raining down on Gaza people, of hospital bombed, of ambulances targeted. 622 days where saving a life can cost you your own. 622 days of families losing their homes, their loved ones. 622 days of hunger, thirst, of sickness with no medicine, no hospitals left standing. 622 days of children growing up knowing nothing but genocidal war. 622 days of world looking away. Broken promises and complicity. 622 days of world watching in silence. 622 days of false promises of aid that comes with bombs. 622 days of government shaking hands with the killers and war criminals. 622 days of live stream genocide, and still they say both sides. 622 days of complicity from those who could have stopped this but choose not to. 622 days Gaza has been screaming, but the world has muted them. My last message as a Palestinian from Gaza to the media: stop lying. To the politicians: stop arming genocide. To the world: we will never forget.
For nearly 2 years, we have borne witness to a live stream genocide in Gaza. Families bombed as they sleep, children starved under siege, civilians gunned down in bread queues, mercenaries targeting the hungry, while Western governments like ours shield the killers and bankroll the slaughter. Let's be absolutely clear, this isn't complicated, it's not a conflict, it's not self-defense, it is colonization, it is domination, it is genocide. It is the systematic theft of Palestinian land, Palestinian life, and Palestinian dignity, a decades-long project of ethnic cleansing carried out with impunity. And who enables it? Our government. While the ICJ, shame on them. while the ICJ investigates Israel for genocide and the ICC issues arrest warrants for its leaders, our government keeps the arms flowing. Keir Starmer, shame on you! David Lammy, shame on you!
Supporter of the Iranian regime, but we will not let the war-crazed leaders of Israel and the Western world dress up their battle for domination in fine words about democracy, security, or freedom. They are colluding in a genocide, and they are prepared to destroy another sovereign country in the simple pursuit of economic and geopolitical interest. But let's be clear about something else. The reason they are attacking our movement and dragging so many of us through the courts is that they are frightened. We will stand up to the attacks. We demand that they withdraw the threats to kneecap. We demand they withdraw the threats to Palestine action. And we demand that they drop all charges against people who have been protesting for peace and against the genocide. But they know, in their hearts, they know they are losing the argument, and they can see a gathering revolt. And they are concerned, they are worried, they are frightened that we might just win. This is about Palestine and it's about war. But they worry too that this is a movement that stands for a different kind of world, where every child is cherished, where no one is homeless, where no pensioner goes hungry, and where no money is wasted on weapons of war. And finally, I want to say this. You, the people who have made up this magnificent movement, you are not just protesters, you are organisers and leaders, every one of you.
The lack of meaningful sanctions, the lack of a full arms embargo. The UK government is complicit in the genocide in Gaza, and it is complicit in every death now being inflicted by Israel in Iran. As Israel attacks Iran, the question we have to ask ourselves is who is next? Israel has bombed Palestine, Lebanon, Syria, Yemen, and now Iran. How many countries have to be attacked? How many more innocent people have to die before our politicians act? If our government will not act, then we have to. We have to step up our protests, step up our campaigning, step up our call for boycott, for divestment, and for sanctions against Israel. We must encourage our friends, our family, our neighbours, our work colleagues to support the campaign too. My union, PCS, is proud to support the Palestinian Solidarity Campaign and proud to be on this march today for peace, for humanity and against genocide.
You know, many years ago, as a young student, I was here before, marching with tens of thousands when they bombed Afghanistan, when they invaded Iraq, when they bombed Lebanon, and here we are again. The excuses changed. The killers did not. The goal did not. Dominate, divide, destroy. In 2003, they filled the air with talk of Saddam's weapons of mass destruction. They flattened Baghdad, tore its people apart, and called it liberation. 1 million Iraqis dead. Then they shrugged and said, oh, it was a lie. And behind the lie, Netanyahu, already sharpening the blade for the next war, this time on Iran. Same script, same slogans, same fake panic. The only difference, one letter, Q for Iraq, N for Iran. Otherwise, it's all the same. Same tricks, same thugs. Back then it was chemical weapons. Today it's nuclear weapons. Back then Saddam was the demon. Today it's Ali Khamenei.
I've stood in this very street protesting about the invasion of Afghanistan, protesting about the invasion of Iraq and the war in Libya. What was the result of all those wars? Destruction, terrorism, and the destruction of all kinds of civilian life in those societies. I want to see a reconstruction of civilian life in Gaza and the West Bank. I don't want to see the destruction of Iran.
It is only on these marches I feel optimistic about humanity, because here there is heart, there is soul, and there are the people that I want to associate with. Until the genocide ends, this is where I will be. This is where you will be. And where I hope more and more people will be, relentlessly campaigning for our government to stop its complicity with Israel and end this genocide. Those who facilitate these crimes against humanity need to be made accountable, not those of us who are compassionate and humane enough to stand against it. So when people say to me that I might lose money and work by speaking out at these marches, I say, but I cannot agree with the illegal genocide of a people, the majority of whom are children. When people say, I don't understand the politics, I say you don't need to understand the politics to know you don't agree with the illegal genocide of a people who are mainly children. When people say it's not my war to fight, I say, but I can't agree with the illegal genocide of a people who are mainly children. And when people tell me that I should stick to music and stay away from politics, what do I say? I say, but I can't agree with the illegal genocide of a people who are mainly children. I hope that more people will join me and our voices will get louder. Because, and you guys know, in our thousands, in our millions.
Remember this. Remember the words of Omar al-Akkad. One day, everybody would have always been against all of this. We, the community of resistance, the mass movement in Palestine solidarity, are not waiting to be on the right side of history. We will continue, despite every attempt to repress us, to build that mass movement, because we know this, that history tells us it is only through such mass movements that system of oppressions are brought to an end. So we do not stop, we will not stop, we never stop until every brick in the wall of apartheid is crushed into the debris of history, and on every inch of their historic homeland, the Palestinian people are finally walking free. From the river to the sea. From the river to the sea. From the river to the sea. Thank you.